All right, and we should be live now. So welcome, Ian, for another presentation. We're excited to hear from you. I'll go ahead and let you take the stage so you can start.
Thanks, Alexis. I like that play on music. Like I need more of that in my life when I wake up. That's wonderful. Um, Thanks for having me again, Reclaim fans. It's good to be here again. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about building your own federated note-taking system and rethinking blogging and stuff like that. And today, I want to try and take that idea and put it on its head and talk about some of the stuff that I'm doing outside of that and trying to think about how do we create better systems to build community. So I have two posts that are out live, and there's more coming. Obviously, I'm hosting them through Reclaim. And so basically, the two posts where we'll begin with is that there's two sides of this coin. One of which is in this first post, basically a block away from my office on campus is Septima Clark's house. Septima Clark was an educator in the Charleston area. Septima was would take time to organize and plan and try to support the education of Black youth in the area. And so pretty much every day when I go into work, I walk past where her house was and think about what it must be like to to have been, in that house. And there's a lot of historical spots in town, but I really gravitate to Septima's house and think about, her kitchen table, and the fact that, she would work with others and plan and organize and build community, and build community to focus on education and empowering others. And so I think that we need a lot more community right now, given what's happening. And so with others, we're trying to figure out how do we build that community? How do we build a space where people can come together and think and plan and organize and strategize? What can we learn from historical context, but then also what is new and novel in digital spaces? And that brings in all of the discussions about privacy and security and encryption, and thinking about peer-to-peer technologies and distributed systems, and some of the blockchain technologies that we've used in the past. But then also, how can we federate systems so that as things change, here in the US and globally, we can create community, we can create a space. So, put simply, if we think about Septima's kitchen table, where does that kitchen table exist now? Where do we have spaces so that people can come together and they can talk and be heard and have a little bit of sanctuary and feel like they can actually talk about the stuff that they're worried about, without being doxed into the Stone Age? And so that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out. How do we create community? How do we create spaces so that people can come together, and they can organize and they can talk? We see more and more of these spaces and silos that we exist within online are closing up and they're changing. And so we're just trying to figure out what does that look like. So my hope is to pick the brains of this illustrious group and figure out what could and what should we do. With that, I have two layers of this discussion that I wanted to unpack. The first of which is the human side and the way that we interact as human beings, and then the other is the digital side. And I think that the two have to work together, and try to make sense of what that looks like. And so with the human side, one of the areas that we are trying to figure out and unpack is how do we develop a code of conduct or ethics or norms? How do we have a community compact, so that people can come together and they can talk and feel like they're being heard, and not outed, If we have people that are in the room that are educators, researchers, business folks, normal people that don't do any of the stuff that we're doing right now, students. If we have in educational spaces, we have pre-service teachers, we have in-service teachers, we have educational researchers, we have deans, we have admins. In K-12, we have a lot of different power dynamics, and I think that I know that we need a space for people to come together and talk about some of what they're seeing and make sense of how can they empower themselves and empower others and speak up and speak out for people in their community. And so that's one layer of this, is trying to make sense of the human side, and how do we, once people join this community, how do they sort of understand, what it takes to be involved in this. With that, and this is slightly on the verge of the digital side, as we think about the community, code of conduct or ethics, or hey, Cog Dog, how's it going? We want to think about what does that look like, and how do we create space for that to happen. And as part of that, and it's not quite the digital, but it blurs into the digital side. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is, are there layers of of a public identity or a public facing identity that we can create through digital terms. And so what does that mean? There's the opportunity to think about, how do, I may not have a problem at all with my name and face and identity being, front and center on the website. I may not have a problem with other people in and out of the group. It's like our privacy settings, in our social networks. I view it more as, when we look at Google Docs, we can think about like the privacy settings and share in public and searchable. So do we're envisioning, 3 layers of visibility, for individuals that are in the group. One would be totally public and they're identifiable. One would be that they are in the group, and other people that are in the group know who they are, and we can basically, we know who they are in real life, and we can interact with them, but they're not on the forward front facing part of the website. And then the last piece of the puzzle would be people that are sort of in the back of the scene, and they want to remain as anonymous as possible, so that they can talk and share, and they might be able to share content that we put up on the website and put out for blog posts, but then also have the opportunity to talk to other people and get feedback and get some real honest, candor, critical feedback from others. So one layer of this project is we're trying to figure out, how do we create those spaces so that there's layers of public facing of identity that other people can see, and a little bit of opportunities to like hide or obfuscate some of their identity. I will pause. Cog Dog, I know you haven't vanished on me. So I will pause and see if there's any questions that are out there so far. Anything going on behind the scenes? Looking out on the chat. So one of the things that, so with this project, the purpose of this project is that it is the Initiative for Literacy in a Digital Age. This has been an initiative that has been in place for a number of years, and one of the claims to fame that we've had is that we identify and we award the Divergent Award for people that are doing new and novel things in digital spaces, and being divergent, whatever divergent means. My view of being divergent is that you put a ladder down to help other people up. My view of divergent is that you zig when everyone else is zagging. But most importantly, I think that individuals that have been awarded this Divergent Award continue to try and be divergent and do new and novel things. And then I also think that there are people globally that want to, that are divergent curious, and they have an interest in trying new things and trying to think differently about how we use these technological platforms. And so as we build community, we're seeing things change where at times it might not be safe to be divergent. It might not be safe to engage in critical thinking. It might not be safe to ask questions about what's happening in and out of our classroom. So Steven said the slides are good. There's people in the room. I have to follow the audio. Um, so one of the things we're trying to figure out is as we bring together people globally, and we need to do a better job internationally and intersectionally, we want to think about how do we create spaces so that people can come together and have a little bit of safety, whatever that means, in online spaces, so they can come together and feel heard and connect with others. And so the first layer of that community building is all around how do we build these spaces. The first post is about why we want to build these spaces, and find opportunities to bring people together in a way that honors the human, make sure that they feel heard, and then how can we do so out of an abundance of care. The second piece of the puzzle is, to me, one of the main reasons why I wanted to come to this group and to this conference is to take some time and think about digitally, how do we do this? I know that there is, a lot of you see me playing with like home servers and stuff like that. But we're trying to think about how do we build this digitally. And so, as I said before, earlier today I was playing with Google Nano Banana, so it was helpful in helping build this graphic. The way that I'm envisioning this is that we would have, like I said before, um, you know, it's almost like those of you that have worked in theater or worked in a restaurant, you have like front of the house and back of the house. So we would have people that are working front of the house, and they're able to, they're working publicly on the website, they're out in the community, they're on social media, they're in the social network, sorry, and they are basically working with the community and trying to advance the goals of this group. And then behind the scenes, we have spaces where people would work and interact and connect, and basically share ideas, have discussions and get good critical feedback. And then underneath of that would be all of the technology that it takes to make this stuff happen. And we don't need everyone to understand what the technology does, but there's a certain amount of professional development that we need so that people understand why we're shifting gears. And so what that means is, my thinking is, and I'm looking for, oh yeah, Stephen, you did read this before. Trust has to be built, trust has to be grown. Absolutely agree, Stephen. I think that as we build this up, one of our first pieces of this is a community series coming up at the beginning of the new year, focused on hope and focused on building community. And the hope is that we build trust through that. So as we build this community, our thought is, what we're envisioning now is that people would meet face to face at conferences, we meet virtually in a conference like this, and then have a little bit of a discussion and say, like, we think that you should join our group, we think that you should become part of this collective or this community that we're building. And so to do that, one of the things that we're first beginning with is an idea that everything has to be guided by privacy by design. That we cannot use our institutional emails, we cannot use our institutional Zoom account, we can't use we shouldn't use our Google Drive and our Microsoft Office 365 and all these things. Especially here in the US, as we see a lot of our data being hoovered up, for different reasons, but also the very real reality of documents being FOIA'd, so that people can understand what's happening in your communications. So one of the first things that we're doing is doing a little bit of PD, professional development, but also trying to build systems so as we reach out and connect with people, we're so trained to say, like, let's jump on a Zoom call, that one of the first things would be is start to use tools like Signal and properly inform people how to use Signal so that they can connect with us and we can connect with them. We have friends that may not need to use Signal or technologies like this right now. But for me, working and learning in digital spaces, this is always a discussion of, when, if not when, we're going to need these things. So one of the first things is use of Signal, and then what does the broader infrastructure look like that we built? So the front of everything is a WordPress site. Once again, hosted through Reclaim, so thank you. So one of the first things is a WordPress site. We did a lot of work trying to figure out, are there different, more lightweight, energy efficient, minimal ways to run this website. Right now, we're using WordPress and just trying to like streamline and make it skinny. And I do have questions about, and there have already been emails into Reclaim's help desk about hosting this outside of the U.S. We have discussions. We have people in the group that are situated outside the U.S., and so there's the opportunity to think about, do they have it hosted there, as opposed to me hosting it here in the U.S. And then also, beyond the WordPress site, because the WordPress site is out in the front, and my analogy of the front of the house and the kitchen or the theater, if the WordPress site is out in front, then we need to have a place behind the scenes where people can connect and communicate. So one of the first things is, where do people go to connect and have dialogue? We don't want to use Slack. There's members of our group, and I know that this is going to have a lot of questions in this group. I am not really feeling the love for Discord. I have watched all the videos. I think that Discord might be the right opportunity to create a space where people can learn and communicate, connect, and chat. My concern with Discord is that I don't know how privacy forward and how secure it is. I know that we had a little bit of a discussion a couple of months ago, meaning the online global community, about security problems with Discord. But at the same time, we see a lot of the recent events, a lot of youth around the globe are using Discord as a way to speak up and organize and connect. So that's one of the areas that I'm trying to figure out. So I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, I mean, Taylor, that's one of the things I'm thinking about is Discord for us? And yes, I know that there is the age-old question of, if we, there's a balancing act between like privacy and will people actually use it or not. Definitely understood. So if we don't use Discord, I know that there are privacy variants of Discord, Matrix and other things. So that's the where people communicate. I think that Signal could be used for that. I don't think that WhatsApp and WeChat and Telegram would be the right opportunity, the right tool for the communication. I think that as you build community, I mean, I'm speaking to people that have built a reclaimed Discord server that I've seen all the videos. And so, I think that's what we want, but how do we build something that is private and secure and has those layers of anonymity that I described earlier? Um, in addition, we have the WordPress site, and then we have the back of the house, wherever that Signal, Discord, Matrix spaces where people can talk and communicate and be heard. I think that Signal, one of the things that we're seeing now is that a lot of groups are using rapid response networks. We're using like old school phone trees. And so one of the things I'm thinking is that we need to use Signal as a way to just very quickly have like an open group chat where people can go in and message, but then have the broader piece with Discord or Matrix or whatever. But then in addition to that, yeah, I agree. Mattermost I've been looking at, and Rocket Chat. Um, I'm also trying to think through how do we create our version of Google Docs, or like a common writing space where people can come together and share ideas. One of the biggest ones that comes up is Nextcloud, obviously. I think that Nextcloud, um, and this is one of the big asks of this community, I think that Nextcloud has a lot of interesting connections with federated systems now. So from what I understand, you know, I could have a node of the Nextcloud server at my house, and then I could parallel that or federate that with a Nextcloud instance that is in Norway, and another one that is in Brazil, and another one that is in Tanzania. And so we're trying to figure out how do we create a place for people to come together and share and write. We have been trained to just open up a Google Doc and just start writing. And as someone that's trying to de-Google themselves, but also think about privacy and security and really data sovereignty, how do we, build these spaces for others? How do we provide the professional development to help support others? And then, give opportunities to think about how do we use these in our work, in our practices. And then the last piece of the puzzle is that from the digital infrastructure side is thinking through, we could use Signal for audio chat, for video calls and stuff like that. But when we have, in January, we're going to have community calls and have webinars and have our plan is in January to have a three part. Some of you, we would call this a MOOC back in the good old days. A massive or an open online learning community. So that the plan is to have a series of webinars as part of that. And one of the questions would be, how do we do that? I don't want to, and I don't think that we should say, hey, everybody tune into my institutional Zoom account, or any Zoom account. I'm sorry, Zoom right now. I'm probably being canceled. But I think that I know that we need to use other tools and think about how we can sort of build our own infrastructure, control our data, and think about data sovereignty. And so that might be Signal, might be Jitsi. There's other video tools that are out there. I see, yeah, I know, MOOC. We're going back, baby. And so basically, what we're thinking about is how do we create spaces? How do we create community so that people can come together and they can feel seen, heard, supported, provide a bit of sanctuary for folks that need that support. And we're trying to think about how do we do so in a way that is thinks that is human first. We have people on our team that are far smarter than I, that know how to build community. We would like you to join us. If any of the words that came out of my mouth sound of interest to you, we are beginning this work by building community. We are looking at building community broadly. We're looking at building community beyond just education. Initially built by educators, but for all of us. And so there is this belief that we need space so that we can come together and we can have conversations about, what type of community, what type of world, what type of planet we want to live in. And do so taking more control of our data and more control of our privacy and more control of the systems and spaces in which we exist online. And so this is going to be a multi-threaded project coming up. We already have pieces in work to think about the history or history and what we could have learned from historical context and what's new and novel and different now in digital spaces. We have members of the team that want to think about mental health and wellness. And as Dr. Bettina Love would talk about, refilling our cup and charging our battery as we engage in this work. We have people that are studying rhetoric and discourse and thinking about the verbal judo as we interact with others. So we have a lot of different lenses of this, for the researchers that are out there, for the educators, for the normal human beings that would want to be involved. But as I saw Stephen put in the chat, I love the gifts. As I saw Stephen put in the chat, we're beginning with the people. We're starting with the human side. We're beginning with trying to build trust, give people a space to come together, to have a little bit of solidarity in these experiences. But as we do so, make sure that we're not sort of carving out a space online and then asking everybody to go there, and then that makes them more vulnerable. So I will pause because I see we're coming up in the end. Thoughts, comments, questions, things that need to be addressed, words that are left unsaid. Let me peruse the chat. So if anything that came out, you have interest, number one, I'll share the website. You have, so the website that we have right now, it is a work in progress, so don't tell anyone. We have the website that we're slowly building up, and we're basically just trying to identify what we believe in and create space for that. I also have my blog and website that's out there. If you can't sleep at night, pull up any one of my posts and that'll put you right out. And so if you are interested in getting in touch, please send me an email. Please leave messages in the chat. I am available most places online, and I would love to talk to you, especially pick your brains as we think about the human side of building community, which is very, very important. I know there's people in this group that are experts in that, but then also the digital infrastructure side, and how do we really think about data sovereignty, and how do we think about identity and privacy and security, and how we should be using the internet, not how we have been using the internet. So with that being said, I appreciate all of you. I am thankful for the guidance that people in this community have given me, and the inspiration that people have given me. And I'm looking forward to continue to learning along with you. Thank you very much.
Nom nom nom.